Multiple severe weather outbreaks are going to be possible, and even a few tornado outbreaks over the next couple days. And we can see, if we take a look at our day one outlook, enhanced risk of severe weather is in play. We're watching for damaging winds, large hail, and even a couple tornadoes, and maybe even a strong tornado or two is going to be possible. We also have that slight risk of severe weather in play. We are watching there actually for damaging winds, large hail, and if we do get a storm, I'd like to say, back here in Illinois and Indiana across this area, I would not rule out maybe a long track tornado. So we are going to watch that very closely. As you can tell, we do have a 10% hatch tornado risk. Why did it do that? Then we do have a 15% hatch, or 30% hatch severe risk for damaging winds, and a 15 and 30% hatch severe hail outlook. Moving on to Friday, we do have a very large enhanced risk of severe weather, and some of these same areas are going to be under the gun for severe weather over the course of multiple days. So we're watching this very closely. As you can tell, a very large 10% hatch tornado risk. We do have a 15 and a 30% hatched wind risk, and a 15 and 30 hatched hail risk. Does not stop there though. Very large outlook has been issued for Saturday. A very large marginal risk extending from anywhere from the Canada border of New York all the way back into the Mexico border of South Texas. Two slight risks have emerged, one on the East Coast, then you have one over here in the plains. I do think damaging winds, large hail, and a tornado or two are going to be possible. And a enhanced risk, I feel, across this area is not going to be impossible. And it honestly, we may see today extension of that slight, and then our marginal, and then we may get an enhanced risk across this area, and I will go over that in a moment. It does not stop there, though. On the day 4 outlook, they have issued a 15% risk for severe weather from parts of eastern Colorado back through portions of the Oklahoma-Texas Panhandle into portions of central Oklahoma. Too early to get into specifics, but every day that I'm showing you has the track for damaging winds, large hail, and tornadoes. Moving on to the severe weather outlook for Monday. This is one of the bigger days I think is going to take place. We see here on Monday we have yet again another 15% risk of any severe weather within 25 miles of any given point in here. And I do actually think we may see an enhanced risk, 30% across this area in the outlook tomorrow, or even once it gets to the day 3 outlook. We are going to watch this extremely closely, but I do think this right here, this area that I just highlighted, is going to be our biggest severe risk apart from the next 2 days. Does not stop there. Tuesday, we actually have another 15% risk of severe weather, and this doesn't look as concerning as what it will be on Monday, but I do have to say we are going to have to watch this very closely too, as we have a nice pull of dew points into this area with a strong low-level jet that is going to be cranking, so we're going to have to watch that closely. Moving on to the HRRR and what radar may look like today. So if any of these storms, as you can tell, we are starting to get our line up here in Wisconsin. It is starting to bow out. And any of these storms down here that are able to get out in front of this line are going to be the ones that pose the risk for those long track tornadoes. But I'm also watching in this corridor. Any storm that is able to stay surface-based and discrete is going to pose a higher tornado risk with it. If I go ahead and move this forward, you can tell damaging winds. And also, if you're in Chicago, I'd watch this. These storms are going to be moving up towards you. I do think they could pose a tornado risk with them. But it does look you are going to get more of that linear mode. And it will bow out. And then here, if we go ahead, you can tell more storms fire off. And then just, it's like 2 lines will go through. And if you're in Kentucky and Tennessee, or I should say across this area of Kentucky and Tennessee, 2 rounds. If you're across this area, you're going to only have 1 round. So, going to have to watch that very closely. Moving on to the NAM NST model, I do feel this model does paint a better picture. And you see all of this convection. If that clears out, we could see a much higher and amplified severe weather risk. As you can tell, there's a storm system, and it's actually very elongated on the NAM NST model. So, watching that very closely. Significant tornado parameter. I'd like to say I never actually did show up there in parts of Indiana and Illinois and Wisconsin. As you can tell, we are going to have a good amount on the STP values. So we ought to watch that really closely. If I go ahead and go back to the HRRR, hit sector selection, and come to float 2, we can see that today there is going to be the chance, but it's not the highest. I will say down in Indiana and Illinois is going to be the highest. So if we change the floats to go to northern Illinois, we are going to see a much higher significant tornado parameter value. And I'm saying with these storms that get back here into Michigan as well, across this area with our line of storms that is going to be moving through, I do think this is going to have a more of a QLCS tornado threat. So we're going to have to watch that very closely. Alright, this is the GFS here. And I wanted to show you this because this is going to be driving not only our severe setup today and tomorrow, but also next week. So as you can tell, our low pressure system is back here in parts of North and South Dakota. And it is going to keep moving. And then this is going to dig right here. And with this digging right here, we do actually have a low pressure system back here that is going to cause our multiple storm systems across this area over the next couple days. And you can tell we do actually have maybe a little bit of a negative tilt, and that is going to drive a tornado threat if it does play out like this. But just looking to the future, it does look like we may get into maybe a more quiet period before we see our next storm system off there on the coast of California. And if this were to play out, this would be very bad. But lots is going to change. And with how it plays out now, looks like it would be more of a risk across parts of the Midwest and the Northern Plains. So going to watch that very closely. We'll go and go to simulated reflectivity. And so this is Saturday. As you can tell, not much. And this is Sunday. Now, this is a day that we're watching. And it has actually grown a bit more uncertainty across this area. Not so much across this area. But I do think down here in parts of Texas and Oklahoma, we are going to see more of a wind and hail threat rather than a tornado risk. Now, if we go and move on, though, to Monday, you can tell that we may only get 1 or 2 storms that fire off, but if they do, they are going to be long track, and they're going to be intense. So we are watching that very closely. If you go and look at convective surface-based CAPE, and if we go ahead and bring this back a little bit, you can tell there's a decent amount But right here, and if we look at most unstable cape, you can tell there is still a decent amount there. Around 3,000 joules per kilogram, 4,000. So watching it very closely. Moving on to the European model. It paints a better picture, I should say. Here, as you can tell, why I think we may get an enhanced risk for Saturday across portions of the Arclitex region is that storm right there. Then, if this plays out Sunday, this is going to be a very messy storm mode. So it is going to be damaging winds, large hail, maybe a brief tornado or two possible. But now if we move on to Monday, I do want to stress this because our dry line setup back here and these storms that are firing up across this area, it is not going to be good whenever they get going. As you can tell, it does have some of those getting going. So gotta watch that. Most unstable cape and shear is painting the picture for lots of cape. So if we go ahead and bring it forward some to Saturday, we are here. Here we are at Sunday, and this is on Monday. You can tell we actually did have a swath right here that was really impressive, almost 6,000 on Sunday. So I'm going to watch this very closely, though, as there is a good chance that we do actually go live for this. If we go and look at the GFS, though, again, one thing I did want to go to was